Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Darren Crawley. I'm the Partner Account Manager for the Cloud for Partners service here at Ascari. I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's webinar held in conjunction with our friends from Third Wave Business Systems from New Jersey. And before I introduce our speakers for today, I just wanted to give you an idea of what we've got arranged for this afternoon. The webinars tend to be fairly short and punchy affairs with a presentation or demo by our partner and with all of the attendees on mute. However, there is an opportunity at the end of the presentation and demo to have questions aired. So if you do want to pitch any questions during today's broadcast, please type in either the chat box or in the questions field that's on your GoToWebinar user interface. Today's session is being run with two friends and colleagues of ours at Third Wave. We have Mike Foster, Chief Product Officer, and also Michael Nardini, Channel Manager at Third Wave Business Systems, as well as we have Tyson McMurran joining us as well. So welcome to you all. I see we've had a few more latecomers to the broadcast, so please make yourselves comfortable, and I'll introduce you now to my colleague, Mike Foster.
Thanks for the introduction, Darren, and the opportunity to present today. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Mike Foster. I oversee product management for Versago, the product we're going to be talking about this morning at Third Wave Business Systems. In this webinar, we're going to focus on an approach to winning Versago deals and ongoing consulting revenue with Versago, something all SAP partners are quite interested in. This is an approach we've been using at Third Wave that has produced qualified opportunities with very high conversion rates. It is ultimately a consultative sales approach, but it's working, and we're finding the time to be right for this approach as the recent drastic increase in people working from home has exposed issues that Versago addresses. And our customers seem to have a little more time now and interest in having this discussion. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Versago, I'd like to provide a brief introduction to it, get you grounded in fundamentals of the product, and then we'll turn to talk about revenue generation with the product. So Versago is a loosely coupled application, to use SAP's terminology. We refer to it at Third Wave as a portal platform. That's how we market it. That enables a business to support processes and interactions between employees, customers, suppliers, or other partners while staying in lockstep with SAP Business One. Okay. Now, as one platform, Versago provides distinct advantages, we believe. For one, Versago can connect to multiple databases, whether SAP companies or other backend systems. And via the BizWeaver connector, data submitted by end users can update SAP in real time on a scheduled basis and according to configured business rules. Secondly, standalone portals and apps can be inflexible and require custom coding to meet customers' requirements. And each one requires a separate integration with SAP, which requires more interaction with the vendor. Their proliferation around a small business can become expensive, difficult to manage. So as one platform, Versago replaces these single-purpose portals and apps, while also allowing the business to address other unique information sharing needs, which we'll see as we go on here. And thirdly, by centralizing on one role-based portal platform, a business can ensure a familiar and repeatable user experience for all users as more and more use cases are enabled with the tool. Now, Versago's has these functional modules that comprise the application together with BizWeaver processing workflows, and they can be configured, combined, interlinked in innumerable ways to facilitate web and mobile interactions tailored to a business and its wide variety of use cases and types of users. So this is really the essence of Versago that goes to today's discussion about revenue generation. It is the ease with which these web and mobile page types can be configured on a role basis and combined that enables lots of different solutions to be created relatively quickly. And this encourages customers to solve more and more problems with the tool. Now, with the SAP Business One business in mind, to speed up solution creation, Versago ships with template functionality, pre-integrated with SAP Business One. This includes dynamic interactive lists, pre-configured web forms, and connectors for submitting the data back to SAP via BizWeaver. And what you can see here is we've emulated the vast majority of document and record types in SAP Business One as a starting point for configuring solutions, and we find our partners save a lot of time leveraging these templates. Now, Versago has an administrative console, and that's how these solutions are configured. And using that, these templates can be copied and easily customized to suit specific business requirements and what you want to enable users to do. The functional modules can be configured easily from the ground up to satisfy unique business needs. So it is really kind of this simple but highly flexible configuration environment that leads to the ability to create solutions relatively quickly. Okay, so just to recap, what is Versago? So it's a portal application. We refer to it as a portal platform. Okay, but as a seller, there's a challenge that comes with this description. And that's because buyers tend to associate certain features with portals. They think about placing orders or presenting invoices and enabling invoice payment or submitting service requests. They're typically thinking about a portal for their customers. And until they think they need those things that they think come with a portal, they're not going to ask for a portal. But those features are not the full universe of problems Versago can solve that those buyers absolutely have. And why is that? Well, that's because Versago, along with BizWeaver, is a rapid application development tool that can be used to solution for lots of different information access, sharing, and processing needs. So as a seller, rather than wait for the phone to ring with a customer asking for a portal or a codeless development environment, which they're unlikely to do, we have to take the conversation to them. But it starts out as a conversation about them and their business, not Versago. So there is an opportunity to raise the customer's awareness, get them thinking about the problems they're living with. And the problems they're living with are like 1,000 little cuts of information access and processing situations around their business. We see many and widely varying issues like this across our customer base and opportunities to solve them with Versago. So you probably experienced the same thing that we experience with SAP Business One customers. They after SAP is in and running, they tend to focus initially on their bigger integration challenges. So getting SAP integrated with their CRM or an e-commerce platform or incorporating warehouse management capability. But they'll live with, these businesses will live with a lot of other information management inefficiencies around the company. They kind of accept them as status quo. They're not always top of mind. And if they are aware of the inefficiencies, they're reluctant to keep introducing different point solutions, each requiring their integration, as we saw in that previous slide. They're usually not aware of Versago or its breadth of application, despite our incredible effort to get the word out there. So again, we have to point them to the opportunities, and we have some great ROI proof points from customer projects to make the value proposition very compelling. So because customers, or once Versago is in, it quickly becomes a go-to tool for them for solving all of these different information flow problems throughout the ecosystem of their business. We call this the Versago habit. So typically Versago is sold, and the initial sold on the basis of solving one use case that's on the customer's mind that they want to address. But once they get in and they understand more about how the application works and just how much can be done with it, they get into this habit of solving the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And of course, for a partner, this produces a great pipeline of repeatable consulting work. Now, there will be those customers that become self-sufficient with Versago, but we find that because the projects are very cost-contained, repeatable, predictable, most of our customers are happy to just have us do the work for them so they can focus on other things. And so it does become this really reliable, continuous stream of projects for us as a partner. But to get to that, to get to the Versago deal and to get to that ongoing stream of projects, you have to initiate the conversations with the customers. Like I said, they're not often picking up the phone to ask for a portal or a codeless development environment. So we have done this. We have had numerous conversations across our customer base over the past couple of years. This is picking up given recent conditions due to the pandemic. But here's what we know from these conversations. We know that the customers have SAP Business One in and running. Of course, they're generally happy with it. It's solving their problems with regard to an ERP. And then they have this community of people working around the company, employees in all different roles, different departments, different functions. And this also includes their supply chain, other partners, and partners on the front end of the business, customers or trading partners. And still in 2020, we still find this condition. We find people sharing information in these ways. Spreadsheets attached to emails. Spreadsheets often contain extracted data from SAP. The minute that person hits send on the email, that data becomes obsolete. It's no longer in sync with the ERP. Invoices going out in mail, payments coming in mail. Fax still used. We actually had we're having a user meeting a couple of weeks ago where a customer was explaining that before Versago, they were faxing spreadsheets. So paper forms getting filed away in filing cabinets, people in different departments with paper on clipboards. And all of this activity happening in the organization, when it needs to get back into SAP, still all too often, there are one or two licensed SAP users that are keying that information back in. And this entire condition produces a massive speed bump between the company and its operation and the state of the data on the ERP. They're not fully leveraging the value of the ERP when this is the condition. We had a great call with a customer recently where they described the pain of this picture as excessive communication. So in this kind of environment, all actors in a process, they're not seeing and working with the same data at the same time. So they over communicate, which can be anywhere from time consuming to chaotic, and it's always expensive. So again, here we are in the digital age with the conversation well into areas like blockchain and machine learning and IoT and the sophisticated digital technologies, yet over and over, we still encounter this situation within our customer base in different corners of the business and sometimes in some very critical process areas. So what's to be gained by fixing that? Well, it's getting everybody on the same page, as another one of our customers put it. It's immediacy and accuracy of data with your customers throughout the life cycle of the relationship, with their vendors, between employees in interdependent processes and functions, and most of all with the system of record, SAP. So, being on the same page, everyone's experiencing the same data at the same time, including critical systems. So rather than that speed bump diagram with people using all those old forms of exchanging information, this is the picture that we are moving our customers to. So let's just look at a few examples. I'm not going to go into great detail about these, but just to give you a sense of the variety of problems our customers and our partners' customers are solving with Versago. And in each of these cases, just the administration of the process was consuming resources in a very ineffective and expensive way, to the point of hiring FTE just to administer the processes. Multiple participants were involved in all of these, geographically dispersed, particularly nowadays, and employees, customers, partners, people all around the ecosystem of the business. And in every case, they took this inefficient old way of sharing information and converted it to a better Versago web mobile solution. So we see a lot of activity in purchase to pay at all different steps. A very common use case is purchase request approval, employee initiation, and then going through the appropriate stakeholders for approval before it gets committed back to SAP Business One. We see coordination or issuance and coordination of PO responses. A couple of companies where they have a global supply chain, and their suppliers can't always fulfill everything on a PO, but they can fulfill partially. And prior to Versago, all of that was managed, the getting the POs out and then coordinating the partial responses. It was all in email and spreadsheets, and then somebody had to key it in. So now it's all centralized on web and mobile interface, very simple to use for all parties, including the suppliers. And any updates to SAP are automated through a BizWeaver workflow. So we've got these other examples in purchase to pay, AP invoice receipt, and approval workflow, another very popular use case. And anytime information needs to sync back to SAP Business One, it's done as the customer would like it to be, either scheduled or in real time using BizWeaver. So that keeps SAP in sync with the company at all times. Proof of delivery, so someone on a delivery truck dropping off furniture, getting the customer sign off on a Versago form, signature capture. We see applications in field service where service reps can submit activities and their time and materials, order parts for repairs on site, get the customer signature and approval. And all of these, prior to this, it was email and spreadsheets driving everybody crazy, costing a lot of time. Mass order consolidation to get to accurate bills of lading and advanced shipping notices for EDI, largely automated with a couple customers via BizWeaver, but they need human intervention at certain points, and that's where a Versago web user interface on a tablet or a phone comes in handy. Different applications of production data capture at all different phases of the production workflow. And again, you've got participants in this process at some location where they don't need full access to the complexity of the ERP. They just need to perform their job in this workflow in sync with the system of record. Lots of use in quote to cash, sales reps managing opportunities and quotes, sales orders remotely. We have customers where they have independent manufacturer reps, and a lot of the business that those reps conduct every day with our customer and with their end customers is coordinated through Versago. We have customers where they're doing near-term sales forecasting, so their reps in the field are able to enter via Versago form their sales expectations for the upcoming quarter, and management can access either the reports or the charts consolidated on Versago. Returns processing, internal payment processing. We have a customer in the voice over IP business where they're using it as a customer self-service portal. Thousands of customers logging it to check their bills, review their call history, place service requests. Of course, I'm doing a webinar from home and the doorbell rings. Interesting applications in container tracking in the food business, where different participants in getting the food out to market need to receive and process the food at different stages in containers that need to be tracked along the way. We have a customer collecting wind data to inform how high they stack their containers on loading docks, and they're accessing the wind data via Versago. So some very interesting use cases out there. The last one I'll mention is we have a customer in the iframe business, and they participate in a charitable foundation in Canada that involves government stakeholders, the end patient, the optometrists, lens makers, and they themselves, the frame makers. And the point of the charitable foundation is to get eyeglasses to children in need. And all of those stakeholders, participants, need to understand where the ball is at any given time in getting the child the eyeglasses. Prior to Versago, where they were all brought together with a single web form and a single dynamic list, it was all in email and spreadsheets, and they almost had to shut the program down because they were going to have to hire people just to administer the process. So let's turn to the conversation now that that a partner needs to have with a customer to generate Versago activity. And let's start by talking about, what does a partner know about our customers? So, well, we know the data of our customer. We know the SAP configuration to manage that data. We know how many licenses they have, and we're always happy to sell them more. We're always standing by for that phone call. But the people in their organization and the transaction types and flows in their organization, that evolves. It changes over time. And as a partner, we're not always, if there isn't project activity, we're not always in close touch with those changes. Also, the phase 2 wish list they had, we're all familiar with this, right? When we sold them SAP, they wanted to get to all these things, and we were slowing them down and saying, well, you got to get the core system in first, then we can move on to those follow-on projects. Well, that kind of might fade into the distance a bit. I think we've all experienced that, where after the implementation, they want to take a breather. Perhaps it's not in their budget to tackle more projects. Maybe a couple of those wishes go away. And so the dialogue and interactions with the customer can become kind of transactional over time if you're not careful. And you don't want those few interactions you have every year to be, hey, we think we see a bug, or hey, how do I do this? Or we think we were overcharged, or where's your maintenance payment? Or I need another license, right? I mean, no, that's not a bad call. It's transactional. So, you know, we had this intimate relationship at the outset, and where is that now? So we think now is a great opportunity to refresh on the customer situation. And that third wave, that's what we've been doing, really starting before the pandemic hit, but we've got more and more activity since it hit. What we're looking for are areas and interactions around their company where they're lacking connectedness, where that speed bump slide that we saw earlier is the situation and the mode of sharing information. And with everybody working remotely, those ways of doing things are a little bit more exposed now. The customers are feeling the pain a little bit more because people are not together in the same place. So they're more open to having kind of a higher level conversation about these things, which is what we're finding. So to find a Versago opportunity, a third wave, we're trying to increase our understanding of how information moves throughout the customer's organization, between people in SAP, between people in other systems, between other systems in SAP. And what we want to know is the what, why, who, when, how, right? So, you know, who and what roles are in those information paths? Why are they in those paths? Who could or should be in which paths and are not currently? Who doesn't need to be in which paths? It's this visibility that points us to Versago opportunities. Okay, so now let's turn to the discovery conversation that we have. So the key here in these conversations with customers, again, we're taking the conversation to them because they're not calling in to ask for a portal or a codeless development environment, just to reiterate that point. So the key to this conversation that we're taking to them is to ask open-ended questions, right? This isn't a new concept. Everybody is familiar with this. It's just that we kind of forget to do this sometimes. We forget to have this kind of dialogue. And you know, it's all the things I just said on the previous slide, but why, the why question is really key. And sometimes repeated whys get a customer to really open up about the true root of a problem. And that they're always can be revealing in a good way. We tend not to ask questions that can be answered with a yes or no. There's nothing particularly, you know, harmful about that, obviously, but it wastes time. And what we're trying to really get here is the customer talking, get them to open up about the circumstances of their business right now, their pains, so we can listen and propose solutions. So, little practice with open-ended questions, just a reminder, everybody knows what they are, but again, we're not always doing this with our customers. So, you know, an example, what's your biggest challenge right now? Simple question. That question alone could get a customer talking for 20 minutes. What's changing in your business? What's changing between you and your customers or suppliers? What external forces are you benefiting from or contending with? Regulatory, customer, supply chain. Obviously, the pandemic is kind of the elephant in the room right now. That could be having a favorable impact on their business or unfavorable, depending what business they're in. What big projects have you preoccupied right now? Facility expansion, merger, and what are the costly aspects of that situation for you? So these are just a few examples, but you know, each one of these questions, when asked, gets the customer talking about their circumstances, and all of these can be followed up with a why or who's affected, how does that happen today, what would make that better. And again, you know, the reason we're having this discussion is to find those connectedness problems, those speed bumps that we saw on that earlier slide. Those are Versago opportunities. So we have a third way. We take a couple different approaches to this conversation. The first approach is what I call the simple approach. Pardon me. And it's just a checking in call, right? But with 3 or 4 planned open-ended questions before you get on the phone with the customer. So the pros to this are it's less staged, it's more natural. If you happen to know the person you're calling at the customer organization, and many of us do, you know, we'll know a head of operations or an owner. So it just feels more comfortable to do this. The cons with this, though, is you might catch them at a time when they don't have much time. They might not have a lot of patience for, you know, you ask an open-ended question and it's a little too big for them to wrap their heads around. They might not be focused, and there's a good chance that this call gets hijacked by the transactional, right? So, hey, did you get that check? Or, hey, we're having what's the status of that support ticket? And that's really what we're trying to avoid for the purposes of this discussion. So we have a better approach that we would recommend. And again, we think the timing is great for this. We will ask for 45 minutes to learn more about their business and their current circumstances. We will tell them that our intention is not just to really talk about SAP. We want to come up out of the weeds and talk about their business. You know, try to get an operating leader, someone who knows the business well. This does not have to be who will be the ultimate buyer of Versago, because this is a learning and listening call. It's not a selling call. But somebody who's well informed about the condition of their business, We ask them for permission to pose some questions and agree that there won't be any discussion about current work or tickets or transactional stuff. And that the questions could be high level. Maybe they're not used to hearing us ask these types of questions. It could be about their business model. Again, it's a little bit more strategic nature. We ask if we can record it, and we find that most customers will agree to this, some will not. But don't be afraid to ask this, because we have not experienced it yet souring them on the idea of having the conversation. They'll still have it. They'll just say, I'd prefer if you don't record it. But the good thing about recording it is you can focus on the conversation, not taking notes, if you can get it. And then you've got something you can refer back to, obviously. So the pros of this approach, okay, expectations are clear. We've asked them for permission to have this call. It gets on their calendar. They'll arrive at the call in the right mindset. They're going to know what to expect and what you don't want to talk about. The cons are that they may not be open to this more strategic conversation. It might feel a little invasive. But I'll tell you, every customer that we've asked for this conversation, it's been many over the past couple of years, have all accepted. They've all been happy to have this discussion. Not all of them have been willing to have it recorded. So we've never gotten this reaction, but we kind of are always expecting somebody's going to say, it's getting a little bit too in our business, but not at all, not so far. So going into the conversation, into this 45-minute call, we have our questions ready, the open-ended questions. We prepare a few as conversation starters to get things going. They do 80% of the talking. That this is our mindset, right? We are not to get on this call and start talking and try to sell them and let them know about all the great things we have. We're listening. This is about them. We don't pitch products or solutions, as I just said. And we're actively listening for those speed bump keywords as they answer and talk about their business. Situations where you see an opportunity for improvement in the way information is flowing between people in the organization. We follow up with a thank you email or a call highlighting any areas where we think we can help. Now, the customers invariably might say, if you're having a great call and they get into a problem area and they may ask, do you have something for that? And we'll say, yes, we think we do, but we'd like to keep this conversation on track, kind of the way we're going, and we'll come back with some recommendations. Don't let that question lure you into a sales pitch, and because that's going to hijack the rest of the call and the learning will stop there. So just want to share some resources that we use going into this conversation. One you may be familiar with. I think I've seen this at a couple of SAP innovation events, but this has been around for a while. The business model canvas. So this was developed by a guy named Alexander Osterwalder. It's used a lot by high-tech entrepreneurs as they iterate through thinking about their business model. But it does serve as a good reminder of all the high level, in a very simple visual format, of the different key facets of a business. And so I have sent this off to customers before the call and said, hey, I'd like to kind of use this as a guide for our conversation. And we're going to fill this out together, not in gory detail. We're just going to fill out the key things in each one of these categories of your business. And then we're going to talk about how information flows between these key areas, from the most minute things you can think of to the big important things you can think of. And so this really does, it ensures that you don't come off that call and only talk to them about their customer relationships. It helps keep the full business in visibility during the conversation, so you can address as much as possible. And again, you're listening for those speed bump keywords from that slide we showed earlier. Facts, so-and-so extracts this and sends it to them, and we've had errors, and those types of situations are Versago opportunities. So this might seem like kind of an odd or obscure resource, but there's a data and analytics company out there called OpsDog, and they provide an enormous amount of helpful free resources on their website. It's definitely worth checking out on any basis, but we love their collection of KPIs and metrics and processes and workflows that they publish for most sectors of industry. So for us, it's great food for thought. And we'll go through some of their free resources to serve as a warm-up or a reminder of the operational areas and issues to ask about in these customer conversations. So, if I know that I've got a customer that's a cheese manufacturer, I'll go to OpsDog and I'll look at the KPIs, metrics, and processes of that sector just to kind of tune up a little bit. Helps us pull together some maybe better open-ended questions. So just want to suggest that. But regardless about how you go about the conversation, again, the key is open-ended questions, active listening, and posing follow-up open-ended questions, listening for the keywords that where the organization is sounding like it has these problems. So just to recap, selling Versago requires a conversation with 80% listening or lots of listening. You're listening for information flow problems around their business model. So this isn't an SAP consultative call. It's a little bit of a change of mindset. Customers have many of these information flow problems and they tend to live with them. They accept them. Again, they're thinking about their e-commerce integration or their CRM integration. Obviously, those are important, but they're living with an awful lot of inefficient, expense, non-digital ways of communicating with each other internally. And these problems are more exposed now. These problems have existed probably for years in most customer organizations, but they accept them. They live with them. So we think it's a good time for a good conversation, and we're having this conversation with our customers, open-ended questions, as we've said, get them talking, listening for those keywords. The Versago fit is almost sure to show itself. We have yet to have a conversation like this with our customers where we haven't come away with at least 2 or 3 use cases where Versago could save them a lot of money in operational waste. And inefficiency and reducing that excessive communication that one of our customers talked about. So when we get this conversation, 90% of them result in a Versago demo. Might not come out in that call, but as a follow-up recommendation, hey, we were listening, we heard 2 or 3 situations, we have something we could show you. 80% of those demos result in a Versago sale. So you can talk about Versago, but there is something about getting a customer on the phone, looking at it, showing them example use cases and solutions that really gets them to understand the power of the application. Lots of help that we at Third Wave can provide to you. As you think about this, we have a fantastic demo site at that URL. All this information is available upon request either through Darren or directly through us. But we have set up this demo with lots of different personas: executive, sales manager, sales rep, service manager, service rep, warehouse, shop floor, employee, purchasing, vendor, customer. You can log in as all of these different personas and see sample setups, just examples of what those types of people could experience when they use Versago. And there's a lot of shared functionality across those different logins because obviously you've got multiple people participating in processes. So they need the access that's appropriate for them to any given feature within a process. We also have an environment called Demo Cust. So we had a hypothesis that when customers see their own data in a Versago demo, they're going to be more likely to buy, and that is proven to be absolutely true. So we have an environment where we can rapidly stamp out, clone this demo environment. And what that demo environment consists of is all the template functionality that we showed earlier in the webinar, all those lists and forms with the customer's data. So it's usually a pretty quick setup with the customer. We can do either a direct remote ODBC connection into their database, or we can take a backup and restore it into this environment. It's totally secure. It's totally isolated from any other demo environment. And we've had customers taking us up on this, and it does make a difference when they see their data. And things start to, the bells start to go off for them, as it were. We have lots of YouTube video content out there, both describing the high-level value proposition of the product, also showing lots of examples of what can be created with it. And we have got great ROI stories from customers that they've shared with us, where just like, we've had customers where they've raved, after they got their first use case solved, Versago more than paid for itself within a week of going live. That kind of stuff, being able to reallocate FTE to more important stuff instead of administering processes. But all this information and these enablement tools are available upon request. And that's it for today about generating revenue with Versago, and I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
Thanks, Mike. It's Darren here. Thank you very much for that. That was some great insight, and yeah, there was certainly some key takeaways from my perspective. I mean, as we're all IT professionals in the room here, it's it's really important that businesses have one version of the truth when it comes to their data. And I'm actually staggered that in 2020 you still have companies relying on multiple Excel files on various laptops and PCs, and some of those companies are major corporations even, which is crazy. I didn't even know that faxes were still around, but that came as a huge surprise from my perspective. But yeah, it's and I'm sure, obviously, looking at how Versago can really eradicate that that wasted time and effort and input and resource. It's a bit of a no-brainer. I haven't actually got any questions coming through yet on the question pane, but I'll give it a couple more minutes in case anyone's frantically typing away. Just to give everyone some insight from my perspective, both Ascari and Cloud for Partners have a really good, strong relationship with Third Wave. We've been working with Mike and the rest of the team now for nearly 2 years. And if we look at Versago and BizWeaver, Ascari in the UK, we sell SAP Business One in our domestic marketplace. We use and sell Versago and BizWeaver ourselves, so we know exactly how powerful and how strong a proposition it is. And from the Cloud for Partners perspective as well, I manage the partner network globally, so we're talking around about 800 resellers of SAP Business One across the world, and we're quite proud to promote Third Wave and its products on our own digital marketplace, because we know it does the job. And given what's happened in the recent months, the ability to utilize resources like Versago and BizWeaver as a Business One customer, they're really valuable. So I think it's only more strength to your proposition there, Mike. I'm just checking just to see if there's anything else that's come in. I can't see anything at the moment, but Mike, I'm sure you'll welcome any direct approach from our audience today. Obviously, if there's any questions from an Ascari C4P perspective, anybody on the call is welcome to drop me an email. There you go, I can see Mike's details there in front of me on the screen. But if you need any input from my side as well, just simply email darren.crawley@ascari.com. Mike, I'd just like to thank you for your input today. It's been a cracking session. I think we've all learned quite a few things there in terms of moving forwards, and we look forward to the wider partner network going out there, banging the drum, asking those key questions and listening to why the customers are asking those questions, and hopefully we can get a few more demos in play over the coming weeks and months for you. Mike, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you very much for the rest of the team at Third Wave as well. And finally, thank you very much to our audience today. It's been a pleasure hosting this webinar. We will have a recording available. Please approach the usual channels for Third Wave via social media or your contact point there. And also we'll have that available through our own digital channels here at Ascari and Cloud for Partners. So thank you very much for your time today. Please stay safe and well, and let's look forward to moving on in strength and strength as things start to steadily recover and get back to normal there. Thank you very much for your time, guys, and all the best for the rest of the day.
Fantastic. Thanks, Darren.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.